The following episode of We Making It is part of a mini-series highlighting the body business stories of dance artist professionals who are creative partners in the Sydnie L. Mosley Dances collective. SLM Dances is a New York City-based dance theater collective that works in communities to organize for gender and racial justice through experimental dance performance. This fall, SLM Dances is fundraising, to build our collective power and continue to make this work possible. Hashtag we making it. In these body business stories, we speak candidly about our budgets and bank accounts while sustaining a commitment to impacting our communities with our gifts as artists. Please visit SLM Dance's website to learn more about how you can play a part in reaching our fundraising goal of $10,000 by December 31st, 2019. Again, that's SLMDANCES.com. You want to know what else you can do? Well, let me tell you. Share this episode using the hashtag SLMDBodyBiz, that's biz with a Z, 10K, and help us share our body business stories with your community. Now, let's get back to the show. Struggling away. Welcome back to another episode of We Making It. Oh, this is a weekly conversation with New York artists about what they are making and how are they drinking water in the process, because we can't be out here looking thirsty. As always, if you want to be a part of this conversation, feel free to email me. I'm also partial to DMs at katiesmiles.nyc. That's Katie, why? Because it's my name, Smiles, because my smile is too cute, and .nyc, because that's where we at. I hope you enjoyed the break, and let's get right into it. So, what happened last night? What did happen last night? Oh my gosh, shout out to Emily. She made this a bomb curry, and then she made this pasta without pasta sauce. Honey, she made with some crushed tomatoes, baby, honey, with the Asiago Romano mix from Trader Joe's on top, honey. And she talking about baking it tonight. Shout out to you. What am I reading? I finally finished Afia Adekora. I hope I'm saying your last name right. Conjure Women. People. This book is so good. If anybody knows her, I'm going to try to get her on the podcast. That's all I have to say about that. So, without further ado, I have a special announcement. So, I recently started dancing with Sydnie Mosley Dances. Shout out to Sydnie and the whole crew. And in partnership with SLM Dances, we are going to have a 8-part series around money, cha-ching, moolah, money, specifically how people are affording to dance in New York City. I think this is a conversation that I've had a lot in private spaces, and so I'm super excited to put it in a public space with public accessibility, and I hope that something in these series is encouraging, and also just like starts conversation in your home and in your community around like how we really making this happen. I mean, the podcast is not called We Making It for no reason. So to kick things off, special guest, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jessica Lee.
Jessica's in the building. So usually, Jessica, I would say, like, what are you making? But in this case, I'm curious about how are you dancing in New York City, financially speaking? What systems do you have in place to afford all of the things we do?
What a big and important question.
Yes.
But small at the same time, because
honey, how you pay
it's
rent?
every day.
Rent is due on the 1st, honey. Are you paying it on the 3rd? That's all.
Exactly.
Really.
Exactly. Where do we start?
We could start with college. I'm open. A little bit. We can even do a little bit of background in terms of like where you're coming from in terms of familial support.
Of course.
Let me know. I'm easy.
Well, I mean, we can start in the beginning because I've been dancing since I was 3 or little.
Okay.
My for many of my dance years, all of my classes were paid by my parents.
Right.
So props to them.
Thank you.
And
Shout out
thank
to
you
them.
very much. Much gratitude. All my dance training was paid by them. All the summer intensives or the shoes or the dance uniform, etc.
Right.
And then I went to college.
Right.
And let's see, we split it. So my parents are still paying for my tuition.
Wow.
And I still have a lot of student loan debt.
Okay, cool.
And I mean, we can go right into it right away. I am over $30,000 in debt for my student loan.
Okay. Just to clarify, you went to school for?
I went to school. It was a liberal arts college. So I got a BA, bachelor's in dance and environmental studies.
Okay, cool.
And I feel like I got a general education that did, if we go more into the details of the resources I have to be a dancer here in New York City.
Right.
I definitely learned a lot of skills there that I apply now today.
Yeah.
And so I'm really grateful for that experience.
Of course.
I also am grappling with like, how do you now pay for the thing you already did?
Right.
Yeah. And when I went into college, I was like, yeah, of course I can take out loans. That's no problem. I'll have a job. I didn't know I was going to be a professional dancer and artist, but I was like, yeah, sure. The future's great.
Yes. Which, it is.
Of course it is. And I don't regret that. It's just like the reality is not as clear, or it's much clearer now than it was before. Before it was just like, oh, sure, that's fine.
Of course. And so just to clarify, that means on top of rent, groceries, MTA, you have an extra bill for student loans.
Correct. And that's a little more complicated because I actually have a pay as you earn, or like in
pay per income.
Yeah, income-based repayment plan. So technically, one of my loans is a bill of $0.
Right, because you don't make enough.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't make enough for them to be like, yeah, you have to owe $300 a month. But I still have interest.
Right.
And that is definitely adding up. So I still do owe money.
Of course.
And that large sum is not going away.
Right.
So figuring out what that looks like and how to still pay for the loan.
Right. So then, the great segue. How are you paying for all of these bills?
Sure. So I am a dancer.
Right.
And I'm just starting to earn some income as being a part of SLM Dances.
Right.
In that way. But my main source of income is teaching dance.
Okay.
I teach dance to little kids.
Yes.
Which is wonderful.
Yes.
And I do a lot of arts administration.
Okay.
And so that is how I pay my rent and how I pay my bills.
Okay, cool. So I want to go in a little bit more detail. I want to break it down just in terms of numbers. So on average, how much do you spend a month on your necessities? So we're talking the stuff that you can't live without, like the food. I mean, and I know food can be tricky, but whatever I won't even give you an itemized list. How much do you spend on what you deem necessities per month?
Ooh, that's a great question. I wish I knew off the top of my head. I'd have to look
in
my notes.
Yeah.
Where I write
We
down.
got some fingers in here. So rent is
Just
how much?
Did it recently. Rent is $800 including Wi-Fi.
$800 including Wi-Fi.
I did just recently do this accounting, but I don't know where I wrote it down.
Sure, I can try to give you all of the things that are in my Mint app.
That'd be great.
So rent is 800 plus 800 plus Wi-Fi, and then you have utilities, which is
no utilities. So
great.
800 including utilities and Wi-Fi.
Great, and then you pay for that completely by yourself.
Yep.
And then MTA.
Right, $127 a month for an unlimited card.
So we're looking at $927 so far. Make sure, guys, math is not my strong suit. So like, if I mess this up, we're gonna start rounding.
We're gonna be a mess.
We're just gonna start rounding. Okay, so food, approximately.
Right. Oh, I budget myself $200 a month.
So we would be looking at $1,027, just about. Okay, and then what's another necessity? A cell phone bill.
Yeah, my dad pays for my cell phone bill.
Great.
I'm so on the family plan.
Yes,
that
I
helps.
too am on a family plan, but my mom recently said I got to pay my $40 on time.
Right.
Cell phone bill. What else is a necessity? Okay, so let's just keep it there. We got $1,027.
There's definitely more. But
let's add, we'll say, $50 for an emergency. Do we want to have an entertainment fund? Do you have a Hulu, a Spotify, a Netflix?
Yeah, there's definitely a Netflix and a Spotify I share with my family.
Okay, so is that $5?
Throw that in there.
What is that for you? Because I forget what Spotify is.
Let's say it's 10.
10 for each?
Yeah.
So we looking
at
10
total.
Okay,
and
so
then
we looking at 1,000 plus 27 plus 5, 1,032.
Sure.
Great. Now let's break. So that's like, let's just go ahead and round it to 1,100.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's 75.
No.
Maybe you had to buy an umbrella. Maybe you had to go to McDonald's, get some fries because, honey, you was out here making these jobs and you get hungry working these jobs. Great.
Yeah.
So we'll say average $1,100 is what you need.
Break
it down for me in terms of source of income. You already said that your dad pays your cell phone bill, so that's brings us down to 1,060. 1,060. Where did other 1,060 coming from in terms of payment per job?
Wow, we're really breaking it down. All right. So, everything's shifting this fall, but I would say a little over half is from teaching.
Okay.
And then the most of the other half is from the administrative work that I do.
Okay.
Through Purpose Productions, which is
shout out to Nia.
A great
hey. Shout out to the whole
Super Squad.
Yes, Super Squad.
And then anything else is from dancing and some babysitting. And
so if we could do this in percentages, you said that half is coming from teaching, so that's 50%. And then we'll say 30% is coming from admin.
I would say closer to 40.
Okay. So if you got 40 and 50 is 90. So 10% is coming from performance.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to backtrack and then I want to move forward. Given that you owe 30, something close to 30 grand for this education.
Right.
And 40%, 10% of your income comes for performance. What's that conversation in your head like today?
Well, I know I'm not going to pay it all anytime soon.
Sure.
It's about, I think, okay, the conversation in my head recently has been, how can I streamline what I do so I can start to be more specialized in what I do and that I can make more money from what I do.
Okay.
Whereas when I first started off in the New York City, I feel like I was running around every day in a different place every day.
Yep.
And not necessarily getting like more advanced in what I
Right.
was doing.
Right.
It was just spreading myself thin in everything.
Right.
So in
Putting
the
a
past,
lot of peanut butter on a lot of different slices.
exactly.
Right.
And so in the past couple of years, I feel like I've been able to consolidate.
Putting some
Streamline.
peanut butter on fewer slices, maybe adding some jam
Yep.
to actually make sandwiches so that you can have a meal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly how to reach the like 30,000, you
Of
know,
course.
like who knows?
Right.
But that a little bit at a time will help.
Sure.
So, I feel like I'm at a place where I love all the things that I'm doing
Amazing.
and I can do them well.
Right.
And so how can I continue to advance myself within those?
Sure.
And for instance, like get some teaching gigs that use the skills I've been building over the past 5 years that may pay a little bit more.
Right. Rather than signing up for a teaching job that requires a whole new skill set that then you then have to spend time or getting to then get a new job.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's a good segue. Yes, I'm thinking about all of the times that I got jobs that had none of the skills that I was already having, but I was just like, oh, this generates a lot of money. And, I'm going to take a little side moment. We'll pause and then we'll move forward. I know so many people that are yoga certified. I know so many people that are Pilates certified. And yes, there are some great resources out there to make those programs free. But again, that was not a skill that I necessarily had given my education. So that skill in some ways was costing me more rather than costing me less.
Yeah.
Like I was literally, at the time when I had signed up for a work study Pilates program, I had basically invested so much time in this program that may have made money. But if you break down how Pilates instructor, yoga instructor works, you have to build your clientele. So you almost have to have more resources to start because you're basically going to deplete your existing resources just to get to the starting point to then be able to build the resources. And it's not to say that I think it's a bad idea, but that was definitely a conversation that I wish that I had in college, only because, which this is going to be a great segue, there were students in my undergraduate program, shout out to Texas A&M, I love you all so much. There were students in my dance program that they could afford to do Pilates training. I think the average cost of a Pilates certification, we'll say, what is it? Mat and reformer is going to cost you at least $2,000. And I'm rounding down. But their parents could afford that. And here I am thinking I'm cute, about to go like, well, maybe I could just take out a student loan, and then that way by the time I graduate, I'm gonna have these skills. And yes, those two skills are the same, but it's an acknowledgement. At the time I didn't acknowledge that these people have more resources than you. And so it might, at the time, I could say to myself, it might behoove you to look at the skills that you don't have to take out a student loan for. Like, what other skills can you build that you already have versus depleting our already very small pot of resources to maybe.
Right. Who knows what that would be.
To maybe. And I get it. Like, Pilates certifications they're pretty sustainable in the city,
sure,
but you just don't know how much of that income you're going to be able to have access to in the beginning. And as we all know, rent is due on the 1st, not on the 15th, and not on the 27th. And if you still waiting for the 15th to get this check, you're going to be SOL.
Yeah.
So that does lead me to my next question. So what are some, given the identities that you hold, which you can disclaim or not disclaim, I'm easygoing, what are some privileges that you feel like you have had access to that has made certain resources more feasible, or you have more access to certain resources?
Yeah, of course. Well, come from a middle class family. I am white, and those are major. And yeah, like some details, my parents were able to pay for my dance training.
Right.
They were able to pay for part of my college education that led to me being, oh yeah, I could be a dancer, I could be an artist.
Right.
Let's go to New York City.
Right.
They, like I said, they live in Connecticut, so I can go home anytime I want. I have connections to family nearby.
Right.
So if I want to go home and I can have a family home cooked meal,
Right.
that's just as much like a resource as money is, you know?
Right.
That support system is there.
Right.
And then in terms of access to systems, my name is Jessica Lee. I am a white woman.
Right.
There aren't that many barriers for me in the dance world here in New York City.
Right.
I graduated from school. I got an internship working for a dance company before I graduated from school. That summer, I commuted to the city from Connecticut.
Right.
I was able to live at home with my family and commute in. I then got an internship at Brooklyn Arts Exchange.
Shout out to Bax.
Yeah, and for the youth education department. And I learned a lot about, this is how we create programs for education, for dance education, for performing arts education.
Right.
And from there, I had a foot in the door to learn how to teach. And so that was my first teaching opportunity, and they wanted to support me in my desire to be in the classroom with the kids. And develop my teaching practices.
Right.
And so the identity that I have and where I went to school, I went to Middlebury College.
Oh, yeah. All those Middlebury folk, babes, that little cute.
Yeah, exactly. And so the white privilege I have brings networks.
Right.
Connections.
Because it's a bunch of Middlebury folk in the city.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Bates folks.
The name of that, Middlebury, like, oh, you went to Middlebury, you're smart. Okay, great. You get a pass. Even if I'm not smart today. Even if I'm having a bad day. Even if if there's other people in the room that are smarter than me.
Right.
That name, it helps a lot. And so the networking at Middlebury, I met Paloma McGregor.
Shout out to Paloma.
She's
amazing. Love you so much.
And so through Crystal Brown, who works at Middlebury, I met Paloma McGregor, and then Paloma saw me as someone who was in both the dance and in the environmental studies world, and asked me to work with her because her artistic work is
in that overlap.
Yeah, it lives in that
in between.
And so ever since then, my connections in New York City have been very directly related to Paloma
as well.
So I see that, like, yeah, the access that I had to those systems gave me access to the people that are here that I'm working with.
Right. And then that's something that I do often think about, going back to your note about training. I can't even remember Atlantis' last name. Atlantis, obviously we love you, but during SLM retreat, Atlantis talked about how there's a shift between when you have to pay for your own training versus when parents had to pay for your own training. And I bring that up because I think there is this notion that, oh, Martha Graham started at 19 and Who Shot John started at 25 because, boys often, or male identifying folk, usually start a little later, but they be out here looking cute and they don't have to start as early as all of that narrative. But I really want to press upon that there is we talk about access, the training that you have entering, let's just say, a collegiate program is like you are limited to certain schools based on the amount of training that you had. And the amount of training that you have often is a reflection of your parents' wealth or lack thereof. Now, that's not to say that training is always going to be equated to money, but I will say in a field that is dance, the more money you pay, oftentimes the better your training is, which then leads into, like you said, certain networks, etc. I think that that's something that a lot of people don't talk enough about because it's just like how you get to enter the conversation.
Of course. Yeah.
That said, what have been some barriers that you faced in creating systems of sustainability within this lifestyle?
Wow, such a great question. I don't know where to start. I mean, little things are, my parents are, they had the money to pay for my education, and my mom is a nursery school teacher, and my dad sells printing, which is a dying industry.
Right.
So yes, they did support me, and yes, was stuck in the middle class, and and so, but now I see them struggling with their finances to a certain extent, and I'm not in a position to support them, or like in 10 years from now, I don't see myself supporting them because of the career I chose and where I am with my finances. So that's just like a piece in the pot of like, oh, okay, I can't, like, in I don't know how many years from now, like, then buy their house, and like live there. Like, I don't have those resources. So that's a piece.
Which I'm hoping to do a series on not young homeowners, but artist homeowners in the near future. So just stay tuned, because maybe you can't own that house, girl. We got resources, girl. We gonna call somebody.
I mean, but do I want to live in Fairfield, Connecticut? I don't know.
We just want to make sure if you need access, you gonna have it.
Right. Yeah. And let's see, barriers. I feel, there were a few internships I had that my transportation wasn't covered by the internship. I feel it's like really little, but at the time I was like, I am losing money.
Right.
Like, I personally paid for it. My parents didn't pay for my transportation to come into the city. And I asked for it, but wasn't compensated.
Given. Right.
And so I feel like that's a whole other conversation for folks who are entering the dance world. And luckily I still had a place to live, and I had a job during college so that I could pay for my transportation. Other barriers. I guess, this is something that I really have to think about more about, because I feel like if there's small barriers, I'm able to figure it out and move around it. They're like, but that's not to say that I don't have them. Right. But I feel
totally feel like that's a dancer thing.
Yeah.
Like, they are literally hurdles. But we're like, oh, that's just fine. Like a stick.
Yeah.
Like, you could just step over it.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeté over it. And I'm like, I think it's like a boulder, and we've just like figured out, we've gotten so good at figuring out how to be resourceful.
Yeah.
It's still a boulder.
Yeah. Yeah, I think another piece that's holding me back is that my identity allows me to have more access. And so I
Sure.
feel like it's sometimes harder to name the smaller things
The
because
ways in which you've been limited because maybe you feel like you've had so much access.
yeah.
Okay, cool.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't days where like, how am I going to pay for all of this?
Well, that and like the barriers, like I remember there was this great choreographer who I won't name, but I was like, oh, I would love to work for them, but I don't think they hire black dancers. And then there's a whole and this was I don't know if that choreographer was hiring black dancers or not. I do not know, but I even started to think about like, oh, well, like maybe they don't hire black dancers because they don't know how to light black skin, or like maybe they don't hire black dancers because they don't know how to like light black skin next to white skin, because if you've never done that, white people can start to look like ghosts and I'm just looking like ambery smooth, and then
true.
sometimes I blend into the curtain and that person the white girl is looking ambery smooth.
Yep.
But and I think about that moment of like, was that a moment of access issue from that person, or was that just in my head? I don't know. But that I offer that as a way to just kind of say, like, again, I thought that was like a stick. Oh, it ain't no thing. You don't know how to light my skin, and I really like my skin. Conflict of interest. It's all good. But I've learned a little bit like that is a larger issue at play that can be discussed in various ways. However, given that you said you wanted to talk, my last question is going to be, if for whatever reason all of your sources of income fell short for a month, what resources could you sustain? What resources would hold you in place, taking away your 50% of
teaching,
your 40% of
administrative work?
Yeah. If we just broke it down to the 10% of, but all you were making was the 10% of performing. What systems, community,
right,
prayers, meditations,
right,
affirmations, do you have in place that would sustain you for the month?
Sure. Well, my first response was like, I would go home and live with my family in Connecticut.
Right.
But at the same time, I wouldn't want to lose my apartment. And, so I wouldn't want to move out of my apartment forever. I would want to like figure out how to make the money.
Right. But you can't make it right.
Right. For the month. Yeah.
Just a month.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a really good question. I would probably pick up a lot of babysitting gigs, because that is a
it's a quick
skill
source
I
of
have
money.
and a quick source of money. And there are many families out there that.
But we were just talking about performance, though.
Oh.
Like, if the only jobs that you have you can only find performance jobs.
That's so interesting, because I don't think about my world in that way. Like I don't
and I'm only
prioritize that ever.
Right.
So
I'm only asking to get you down to your smallest amount. Let me be real transparent.
Okay.
I want to get you down to your smallest stack of pennies. And that.
So then what would happen?
And that's all you have access to is that small stack of pennies.
I see.
You cannot get another job right now.
Right.
Maybe you sprained a toe. And a fingernail too.
Right. Well, I've been trying to save money. So I would dip into my savings.
Come on, savings.
And I think that would cover my rent and my essentials.
Okay.
And then I would work really hard to figure out for the next month what could make up for that past month to start saving again.
Okay.
but I feel like you had mentioned before, like what networking community. Like, I feel like I am already a part of a really strong networking community here in the city.
Was you gonna call Paloma and see, look, can I get some sweet potatoes? You just want to send me some sweet, I can come get the sweet potatoes.
Right.
You want some popcorn?
Like, I have a lot of friends here, and that I could go and sleep on Joan's couch, and yeah, and so I don't feel alone in that way. That's why I think it's hard to imagine me getting to that place, because all of those networks, or all of the jobs that I'm a part of now, all of the people are people that would be like, oh, here's a little extra, or I'm sorry I can't give you the check today, but I can give it to you whenever, and so I feel like,
and that's
I'm a part of a community that would carry me through.
And that is what I was hoping
to
get to. I know for me personally, I did not enter New York City with that mindset. And I would say throughout the 4.5 years of college that I spent, I was a very isolated person. And what I am learning, because of how the dance field is set up in New York City, community is oftentimes how we are generating income, be it Giving Tuesday to the sweet potatoes your friend grew on such and such garden, and then such and such picked it up, such and such works that shift at the Park Club Food Co-op, you use my discount, I use your discount. All of these little things start to add up to these big things in a field where oftentimes your practice is only paying a part of your income. And for some people, maybe it's 75, and for other people, it may be 5. But it is, I think that's the whole purpose of this conversation. I hope that people get a chance to see, like, what resources do they have access to that aren't solely coming from them. I definitely know I used to, like, clown people who would, like, call their parents when things went bad, because at the time, and also now, which I'm learning, I couldn't call my mama and be like, oh, I ain't got it. She would be like, oh, I guess you coming home, damn player, because, like, I ain't got it neither.
Yeah, exactly.
But, like, this is where your chosen families come in. These are these relationships that you've spent time building, traveling from the Bronx to East New York when you live in Harlem.
Right.
This is what we're doing. And so I hope, like I said, that you take stock of the relationships that you have. You take stock of the privileges that you have. But I think it's, if you can acknowledge your privileges, honeys, I think you can acknowledge your barriers too, because they work in tandem with each other. I don't think that they are in isolation. So, Jessica Lee, baby, where can they find you if they want to follow you, see you? Give us a plug.
Wow. I have a private Instagram account, so you really got to know me first before you can actually see my stuff.
Okay.
But my handle is at JD Lee
Cute.
1135.
1135. Did you hear it? Yeah.
But you can also see, I can do a shameless plug. I run an artist residency in Vermont called the Sable Project, SABLE.
Okay.
And that is hopefully going to be more of my income, which I didn't mention before. It's not work here in the city, but it is administrative work in our off season. And so you can see more of the work I do and more about me if you go to our website for Sable.
Okay.
I feel like that's just as part of my identity as something for myself is.
Cool. Be sure to check out Jessica, and be sure to tune in to the next 8 episodes to get up close and personal. We talking about it, y'all. Money.
It's gonna be great.
Money. It is. I'm so excited.
So much. So many people.
So honored to be able to have this conversation and to share this conversation. And I hope just give resources, like I've said on the podcast before, that I didn't have. So as always, I want you to make it live. I want you to make it breathe. I want you to count some coins in there too. Count them, because if something is missing, you can notice. But as always, I just want you to make it. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Katie.
Bye.
Bye.
Now, a note from SLM Dances. This episode of We Making It is part of a mini-series highlighting the body business stories of Sydnie L. Mosley Dances creative partners. SLM Dances is a New York City-based dance theater collective that works in communities to organize for gender and racial justice through experimental dance performance. In sharing their stories with you, SLM hopes to make plain their needs as dance artists and inspire you and all SLM Dances community members to think and act from a place of abundance, empathy, and urgency. SLM Dances is fundraising to build our power as a collective. Our goal is 10,000 by December 31st, 2019. Please visit SLM Dances website at slmdances.com. That's SLMDANCES.com to join SLM Dances community and become a donor. Keep in touch with SLM Dances fundraising efforts by following us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all at SLM Dances, and the hashtag SLMD BodyBiz with a Z 10K.